my friends, and welcome to a Henry's Cook Along tutorial. I'm Henry, we're in Henry's restaurant in Bath, and what we want to do is bring you guys down into our kitchen, show you a few recipes, tips, techniques, hacks, and hopefully make you a little bit more confident as a cook in your own home. So today we are going to be looking at fresh pasta. Show you guys how to make some pasta. Okay, so the first thing I want to say about the pasta we're making today is it's completely different to what you might associate with supermarket dry bought pasta. The fresh pasta is like its own entity, it's its own other food group. You really don't need a lot to make a delicious dish with it. Just cooked fresh pasta with some parmesan and olive oil can be enough. It really doesn't need a lot, and it's totally different to what you may be used to. And it's dead simple. We start with 00 pasta flour. I have to stress the point to use proper pasta flour, 00. Don't try and use like bread flour or any other, like rice flours or any other type of flours. It won't go too well. Most supermarkets will do it. It's easy enough to get hold of now, and you want your proper pasta flour. 00 it's sometimes called. Then we've got our eggs and our egg yolks. We've got 2 whole eggs in here, and we've got 3 yolks. And then the final ingredient is olive oil. Olive oil can be quite expensive. Again, it's a bit like cooking wine. You don't need to buy smart olive oil. It can be like box standard olive oil going into your pasta. All right, let's get it together. So there are 2 ways of getting your pasta together. You can do it by hand. You can sort of make a well in the center of your pasta flour and kind of work them together with your olive oil, knead it a little bit like a bread dough, get it together. That's absolutely fine. I want to show you another way, which is a little bit quicker, which works just as well, which is using a Magimix with the blade attachment on it. So the first thing to do is we're going to get our 00 flour into there. So we got our flour in, then we're going to put our eggs and our egg yolks in there. Get that away. And then for this recipe, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And that's it. So 3 ingredients, 3 main ingredients, and you've got your pasta. Very, very straightforward. So we get our lid on, and we're going to give it a blitz. What we're looking for is like a crumb. It won't come together like a ball of dough. We're kind of after like a nice like yellow crumb. When that comes together, we'll stop, and we're going to finish off by hand. So that's literally had a few seconds with that blade attachment, and you've got this kind of nice yellow crumb that we're going to bring together now. So on a nice clean surface, upend it. And then just with our hands, we're going to work that together. And then you want to just, a bit like a bread dough, you just want to knead it together. You don't want to overwork it. You literally want to just like bring it together and then stop. You don't need to be kneading for hours. But just those crumbs, after a little bit of a push, a little bit of time, they'll come together into a nice solid dough. And that's it. So that's our start point. Our pasta dough. And now what we want to do is rest that. You don't want to get that straight in the machine. Allow yourself a little bit of time. You can do it in advance. So we're going to wrap this up in cling film, and we'll get it into the fridge for about an hour, 2 hours minimum. Okay, so our pasta has had a good couple of hours chilled. It's firmed up a little bit, and then we'll get into the rolling. So what we're going to do is just create sheets, and that's like the starting point. You get the sheets made, and then from that, the options open up. You can make your linguine, you can make your ravioli, tortellinis. So it's kind of the material you work with. But we're going to get this into sheets first and show you that part. Okay, so to help you work the pasta, just get a little bit of that 00 flour in a bowl and just give it a light dusting. Both sides. And that will just help it move across the surface a little bit better. So we've got that. This is our original piece. To make it a little bit easier to work with, what I tend to do is get that in half, and then you don't have so much going through the machine at one time. You're only working with smaller amounts, which is a little bit more manageable. So we've got our half. and we're going to start it off with the rolling pin, just to get it down to a sort of workable size. It's too thick at the moment to get through the machine. So we work it with a rolling pin, get it down to something that will go through. So we just press it out, try and keep it even, sort of an even rectangle that you're going to end up getting through the machine. Okay, so that's down now. Hasn't taken long. Just push it down, and it's at a sort of thickness. It's kind of like about a pound's thickness, maybe a little bit thicker. You're at a stage now where the machine will take it through. So, just say a couple of words on pasta machines. You can pick them up for about 20, 30 pounds in some places. They go up to sort of 100 pounds plus. That's more of like a professional setup. You don't need to spend, I would say, don't need to, for your home, you don't need to spend more than 40, 50 pounds on a pasta machine. And once you have them, they'll last forever. So, when you get your pasta machine, and then they usually come with like a little G-clamp. You want to clamp them to your bench. If you try and do it without that, the whole thing will sort of roll around under your hands, and it can be a little bit stressful. So you want to use that clamp, get it attached to a bench or move it to a table where it'll clamp down. So it's nice and secure, and when you start rolling, that pasta machine isn't gonna run away from you. Now we start it. You'll see on the back we've got these settings. It goes from 1 to 9. So 1 is the thickest, and then 9 goes down to the smallest. So we're going to start on 1, and then gradually move up the settings, getting it, pushing it out, getting it thinner and thinner each time, and run it through a couple of times. So, give it a nice dusting, both sides. Even go back with a little more flour underneath, because the pasta is going to come out, it's going to get caught on that flour. So we're starting on setting 1, and we roll it through. So let's add 1. So that's gone through that way, and then we want to go the opposite side. So it's just keeping it running even. Go the opposite side and put it through again. And that just creates, so you've pushed it one way, you've pushed it the other, and it creates a sort of uniform size of the pasta. Now, first time I started making pasta, you'll notice that you may get a situation where it kind of gets sucked into one corner of the pasta machine. So what you can do, as it's feeding through, you've got the pasta on your left hand, you've got the turn with your right hand. Obviously if you're left-handed, it'll be reversed. And you can control the direction with this left hand. So if you see it sliding towards the left, you can pull it to the right, and you can almost direct the pasta with this hand. If you just let it sort of fall and have no control over it, you'll find it might get pulled into one corner, and then you have a sort of a chewed up piece of pasta by the time it ends up out the other side. So turn with your right and then direct with your left, sort of support the pasta with your left, and then you can control and get it moving in sort of in a nice straight line. So we've been through setting 1. I usually jump up to we'll go to sort of setting 2 or so 3 or 4 now, finishing at 9. We're on 3 at the moment. So working it down, and then we just repeat the process. Exactly the same. So we bring it through once. So that side, so we go to the opposite side, and then we put that through. Again, holding on your left, turning with the right, and you work it through. And then we go setting, jump up 6, and all that's doing is just squeezing the rollers together, and each time, each turn, it's lengthening the pasta. You see, we started with that, and now we're getting something like that. So as we're moving up, the pasta's getting longer, sheets are getting longer. We're going up to 7 now, and we take it through. And then you can catch it on the other side and pull it out. Okay. So you want to keep a nice layer of flour under your pasta machine and on your table, because you'll notice as it goes through and it collects, you want the pasta dusted with flour so it doesn't sort of stick together and you don't get these clumps. And it's personal preference after a while. At this point you can just start to see through the pasta, and you might like it slightly thicker, slightly thinner. If you want, it's another little tip, you might find when you get to this stage it's a bit of a handful. So what you can do is cut it in half. So you've cut your pasta down, and now in a sense you've sort of halved your handful in some ways. So now you've got a more sort of manageable strip that you can work with. Maybe feel a bit, at first when it's a feel, it's a knack, it takes a bit of time to get used to. It's good fun when you crack it, especially as it's so tasty. But once you crack it, it's good fun. And then you can get down to these sort of manageable strips and then put it through for the last time. All right. So there are our sheets of pasta. We're on 8. I won't take it to 9. 9 is very thin, and I don't really like it that thin. Depending on what you're making, depends on what you're setting. But just for your box standard pasta, kind of number 7, number 8, just off the last roll is absolutely fine. And then we've got our pasta sheets. So from these, you can make tortellinis. You can cut out circles to make your tortellinis, your raviolis, whatever you want to do with it. Today we're going to use the cutters that come with every pasta machine, and we're going to make sort of some nice tagliatelle, and show you how to do it with that. So from these sheets, I would say probably cut it down again, so you're left with something that size. And then, like I said, with every pasta machine, you'll get one of these. And you've got a wider cut at the top, and then you've got sort of a finer cut down the bottom. This is almost like kind of noodle sort of shape. This is more kind of tagliatelle shaped pasta. So you want to attach that. It will just clip on to the top of your pasta machine, like so. And then you take the handle that you were turning the pasta with, and it goes into the back. And that is, instead of turning the rollers, it's now turning the blades on that machine. It's quite safe. You don't need to worry about your hands getting caught or anything like that. You won't cut yourself on it. So, again, got your pasta in your left hand. You're controlling the rollers with your right. And then it's the same thing. You want to just feed it. You don't need any pressure, any force. Just let gravity take it through, guide it in. The cutters will do their job, and then you've got these nice lumps tagliatelle. And like I said, this will taste completely different to any sort of dried, store-bought, even like the good, fresh, store-bought pastas. It's a totally different thing altogether. It's absolutely delicious. It's almost got like a meaty, textured sort of thickness to it. It really doesn't need a lot. I personally like it with good quality olive oil, some Parmesan, maybe a bit of Prosecco, something, but really, really simple, and it's absolutely delicious. The other thing I should note, when you're cooking your dry pasta, it can take a little bit of time. Fresh pasta is the opposite. It takes literally 2 to 3 minutes. Boiling water with a little bit of olive oil, like you would do with your regular dried supermarket pasta. But this takes a fraction of the time, literally 2 to 3 minutes in boiling water, out, a little bit of olive oil, and you've got your cooked pasta. Okay, so that more or less wraps up the pasta. Like I said, it is very, very simple to make and absolutely delicious. The real knack, the real skill, which might take a little bit of time, is feeding it through the machine, getting a feel for that, and working the pasta, getting it into your sheets. You will probably have disasters first time. It will do peculiar things, end up in peculiar shapes. That's okay. It's a process. It takes time. Just stick with it. Keep doing it maybe once a week. Every time you do it, you'll notice it will look a little bit smarter. Things will get a little bit tidier, and you'll end up with some delicious pasta for a result. So I encourage you to try it at home. It's good fun and it's absolutely delicious. And that wraps up the perfect at-home fresh pasta. Cheers.